Hey guys, welcome back to your fourth lesson. Hope you're all doing well. Alright, so today we're gonna construct a vector with a given set of points, and I'm gonna make this lesson extremely easy for you without all the math jargon that you're used to hearing in universities, like in a calc class. Alright, so I've got two examples lined up. The first one is relatively easy. The second one is also just as easy as the first one. It's just looking more intimidating. But I mean, don't worry, we're going to get to it in a second. Alright, so for the first example, we're making the vector PQ, and then we're given the points P is going to be 3, -1, and then +1, and then point Q is going to be -3, 2, and 2. Alright, so in order for us to construct the vector PQ, excuse me, all we're doing is we're going backwards. So you see how you have PQ here? We're basically going from Q to P. So what I mean is we're basically subtracting point Q from point P. And that's it, okay? So point Q was -3, +2, and then another 2 being subtracted from point P, which was 3, -1, and then +1. And then once we do that, we're basically going to get, so we have -3 minus 3, so that's going to give us -6. And then we have +2 subtracted from -1. So that negative is distributed here. So basically we're going to get +3 because 2 plus 1 is going to be 3. And then for the last one, we have 2 minus 1, which is going to be 1. And that's your vector PQ, okay? So all you're doing is you're going from right to left instead of left to right. So if you have vector, let's go with another example on this first problem. So if you're constructing the vector QP, basically we're going from P to Q. So that means we're subtracting point P from point Q. And once we do that, so point P is, let's see, 3, -1, +1, being subtracted from point Q is -3, +2, +2. And in order to get our vector, we're going to get, so that's +3 being added to a +3 because there's a negative here, so it makes that guy positive. Alright, so we're going to get a +6. 3 plus 3 is going to be 6. And then we have a -1 subtracted from 2. So negative minus a negative, we're going to get -3. And then for the other one, last point, last number on the point is going to be 1 minus 2, which is going to be -1, okay? And that's your other vector, basically. So whatever vector you're given, you want to make sure that you go from right to left, and then you subtract the second letter point from the first letter point, okay? So hopefully that's making some sense. And then for the second example, and be sure to leave me a comment if at any point you're not sure about something. So the second example is pretty much the same procedure as the first one. It just looks a bit more intimidating, okay? So again, we're constructing the vector PQ. So I've got vector PQ, and then I'm gonna go, oops, that's a very bad arrow. I like to write it clean. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're constructing the vector PQ, and then, as I said, we're going backwards. So that's going to be that's going to be point Q being subtracted from point P. And once we do that, so point Q is going to be 0, pi, and then another pi being subtracted from point P, which is going to be pi, 0, pi. And so once we do that, we're going to get the vector. So what's 0 minus pi? That's going to be -pi. I mean, another way to think about this is you could just switch pi with the number, and you can say what's 0 minus, I don't know, 5. Okay, so you're getting -5. But in our case, it's going to be a -pi. And then for the second one, it's going to be pi minus 0. So that's just going to be pi. What's 1 minus 0? It's going to be 1. And then for the last one, it's going to be pi minus pi, and that's going to be 0. What's 1 minus 1? 0. So there is your vector PQ. And then if I want to go further and do the other vector, so let's do vector QP. Oops. Come on, man. All right, vector QP. Basically, again, we're subtracting point P from point Q. So that's going to be point P being subtracted from point Q. Oops. That should be in a bracket. All right, so that's going to be, what's my point P? That's basically pi 0 pi being subtracted from the point Q, which is 0 pi. And then the result of that, what's pi minus 0? So that's just going to be pi. So that's just going to be pi. Pi minus 0 is going to be pi. What's 0 minus pi? That's going to be -pi. And then what's pi minus pi? It's going to be 0. And there is your vector QP. So again, not a whole lot involved. Typically, teachers want to start showing you graphs and then do all that stuff that I'm not really interested in showing. The point is, when you're making a vector from a point, you're taking the second point on the vector. So again, let's take a look at the vector PQ, for example. You're taking the point Q. You always take the second point on the vector, and then you subtract it from the first one. All right, that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. If it helped you, please drop me a like, and then I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.